Toxicity is, unfortunately, a common thread that binds all competitive games together. Even in the friendliest communities, there will always be a subset of cruel, toxic people that make the experience worse. However, Deadlock is different, at least for now. I've played a lot of Deadlock over the past year, and the amount of toxicity that I have experienced has been drastically lower than the hero shooters that I came from. This is just an anecdote, however, which would make a terrible foundation for my argument in this video. That's why I took to YouTube and asked my community to report whether they feel that Deadlock has more, less, or about the same amount of toxicity as other games. And well, the results speak for themselves. With over 4,000 votes, more than half of respondents claimed that Deadlock has less toxicity than other games. This is a fascinating result, and it's one that neither I nor many of the people in the comments are certain will last forever. There are multiple reasons why I think Deadlock is less toxic than other games right now, and I want to discuss those reasons in this video. Now, with that being said, I want to make one huge disclaimer. Deadlock still has toxic players. I won't for a second pretend that this game doesn't have some disgusting people playing it. We need to do our best as a community to report toxic players when they throw around slurs and crash out in the chat. Vile language like that has no place in our community. My argument in this video is merely that there is considerably less of this toxicity than in similar MOBAs and hero shooters like League of Legends and Marvel Rivals. So far, Deadlock's community has done a better job than most at being a welcoming and friendly environment, and we need to preserve that dynamic for as long as we can. I also want to make it clear that I'm simply putting forth my best arguments to explain why this phenomenon could be, and that I could very well be wrong on some of my points. I want this to be a discussion video, so if you disagree with anything I've said or you have something to add, please feel free to leave a comment down below. Just make sure to keep things respectful down there. It would be a travesty for the comments of this video in particular to be filled with toxicity. But with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get started with the first reason why I think Deadlock is less toxic than other games. And that's because it's a very young game. Deadlock is still in a closed early access state, although you wouldn't necessarily think that just based on the Steam charts. The game has been available to the public for around a year and a half now, or at least the part of the public that's savvy enough to pick up an invite. Because Deadlock is young and rapidly evolving into a finished game, its player base is not jaded in the same way as fans of older games like Overwatch or League of Legends. Some people have been playing those games for the better part of a decade, if not longer, and when you play a game for that long, a lot of the whimsy and joy you once felt playing the game has long since faded away. Elderly players like this don't have much tolerance for people making the same old mistakes in their games, and that's why they're quicker to flame their team for misplays than less experienced players. This gets worse at higher elo because there's an expectation that everyone up there is good at the game by now, and when that expectation isn't met, foul words start flying. Deadlock simply hasn't had the time to cultivate this population of boomer gamers. Even the best Eternus players right now still have years of growth to achieve before they get to this point, especially with how much the game has changed over this past year alone. This results in a player base that's more tolerant of others' mistakes. Many Deadlock players that are mean brutes to those around them are usually veterans of another game like Overwatch that brought their toxic mindsets with them. The fast-paced, evolving nature of the game also gives most Deadlock players a sense of hope for the future, that things will get better and better as the game is built up around us. It's hard to be mad when you're having so much fun experiencing the rapid and considerate growth that this game is going through. This is especially true because the vast majority of updates have been overwhelmingly positive, even if you disagree with certain minor changes. Now, real quick, I want to touch on something that I briefly mentioned a little bit earlier, the need for an invite to get into Deadlock. I believe that this also plays a unique role in the lower rates of toxicity in this game. This is because the invite system has cultivated a self-selected player base in a way that other games don't have. Most multiplayer games on the market have no friction whatsoever to get in. They are free to play, you just download them and start playing. Deadlock, however, has a much more involved process to get in. You can't just just download the game or simply pay Valve to buy a copy. No, you have to get an invite from another person. At this point, the Deadlock community has set up the infrastructure to invite hundreds of thousands of people, but that still doesn't make it easy to get into this game. Most people don't want to put in the effort of finding a Discord server or a Reddit forum and gambling on getting an invite in a timely fashion. The people who go above and beyond to seek out an invite and get into this game are the ones who truly want to be here for the love of the game, and aren't just playing it because it's free and they have no better option. This system makes playing Deadlock feel more like a privilege than a right, as if you're part of an exclusive club. And when you're part of an exclusive club, you're less likely to be rude to other people in that club because you don't want to lose your membership. However, I don't think that Deadlock is less toxic than other games just because it's a young game with a bit more friction to get in. I think that the gameplay itself has a big role to play in this phenomenon, and that's because Deadlock players have way more agency to control the outcome of the match than other MOBAs and hero shooters. This is due to the game being completely classless. There is no dedicated tank, support, and damage role like most other games in the genres have, and each hero has been designed in a way that lets them stand on even footing with every other hero in the game. This stands in stark contrast to a game like Overwatch or Marvel Rivals, where heroes are staggeringly unequal. Tanks can steamroll anyone in a 1v1, including the especially puny healers. Healers are the most essential role on the team because without them, everyone will die in a matter of seconds. Not all healers are totally defenseless, and the ones with more aggressive capabilities can be played as pseudo-damage heroes, but this can backfire and leave the team without enough healing. Pure damage heroes are usually just better at their job than damage supports, which makes it all the more shameful when a damage support shows up someone playing a proper damage character. But both of these roles will usually just get outperformed by the tank anyways, unless the tank happens to be playing one of the giant punching bags. No one likes playing a giant punching bag. In games with designated roles, it's extremely easy to get pissed at the players in the other roles. If you're playing the tank and you die, just blame the healers for not healing you enough. If you're playing a healer and you die, blame the tank for not healing for you. If you're playing a damage hero, blame everyone else for your bad KDA because the tank isn't making enough space and your healers suck. In Deadlock, however, every hero is self-sufficient. The item shop gives you the means to make your character totally independent from your team. All good builds factor in means to keep yourself alive, whether it's lifesteal, flat regen, armor, or even lowering the damage output of your enemies. There are still heroes that vaguely follow classic role archetypes in Deadlock. Abrams is very clearly a tank, Dynamo is a support, and Lash is the GOAT. However, all of them have one thing in common. They're one-man armies. Abrams doesn't need Dynamo to heal him. He's got enough healing in his build to be totally independent. Dynamo can heal his teammates for sure, but he doesn't have to play a healing build. He can choose to be a killing machine with a powerful stomp build. And Lash is the GOAT. Players can and should work together with the characters they've chosen to get a leg up over the enemies. There's a rich level of team play that can be found in Deadlock. But for the average person on the ladder who is just moseying about playing their favorite character, they don't need to worry about whether their healer is going to have their back in the team fight or whether the tanks will make space and put their shield up. They can focus on their own personal performance, and they usually don't have anyone else to blame unless someone is totally out of their depth or blatantly throwing. This is just one of many reasons why Deadlock has genius character design. Instead of making its heroes dependent on other players in a different class just to function, Deadlock makes its heroes independent and self-sufficient without sacrificing any of the team play elements that make multiplayer games great. In fact, I'd argue this enhances Deadlock's depth of strategy because supportive heroes like Dynamo, Rem, and McGinnis aren't forced to shoot their own team with healing abilities 24/7 and can use more dynamic tools to synergize with their team. Of course, some players will still be toxic when they expect a teammate to help out and they fail to do so. If Dynamo is doing a poor job healing on lane or Viscus doesn't cube at the right time, some players will get irate. However, because each hero is self-sufficient, it shifts the perspective of many players to view Dynamo, McGinnis, or Viscus helping them out as a privilege rather than a right. None of those heroes have to play healing builds, and none of them even have to be in the match at all. If McGinnis throws you a healing Spectre on lane, it's something that you should be grateful for. You could be on a lane with Lash instead, and he sure as heck won't heal you. You should say thanks and appreciate her kindness. I think that this game design, more than anything else, is the reason why Deadlock is much less toxic than other games. By giving each individual player more freedom to do what they want throughout a match without needing to rely on other people, you give them much less of a reason to yell and play the blame game with their team. If someone is severely underperforming, there's still a chance for toxicity to arise, but this is much less prevalent in Deadlock than in more codependent team games like Overwatch. It's just one of many reasons why Deadlock is my favorite competitive game right now. But what do you think about the level of toxicity in Deadlock? Do you agree with my analysis that Deadlock has less toxicity than other competitive games? Or is there something that I've missed? Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, and while you're down there, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future videos from me. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next time. Peace out.